In this lecture, we're going to talk about what software you should be using for this course. Now, there's not really a right or wrong answer. You can go with whatever one you're most comfortable with, but I'm going to talk about some of the things you will need regardless of what software you choose. You will need the ability to use layers. So Photoshop is kind of the standard default painting program that people use in the industry, but you don't have to use Photoshop. Anything that has layers, you're also going to want to be able to have customizable brushes. So Procreate, Photoshop, Krita, Corel Painter, all of those will work. There's kind of two categories you can sort of break it down into. There's going to be ones that you can do on an iPad or something more mobile. So for iPad, your options range between Procreate, which is the one I use. I think it's the best option. It's the most similar to Procreate, and I think it has the most versatility and power behind it. There's Sketchbook Pro, which is another decent option. I personally don't find it as in-depth, but a lot of people feel comfortable with it. And then the third one is Photoshop Sketch, which until recently wasn't very good for digitally painting on the iPad, but they've made a lot of updates, and it could be a lot more viable now. So once again, it really comes down to whatever you're most comfortable with, because in this course, while I am going to go over how to do certain things using either Procreate or Photoshop, I'm not going to be going in depth on every single type of painting software out there. So I recommend doing ones that you're most familiar with, because you'll be more likely to understand the tips and techniques and how to translate it into your preferred software. If you're going on a computer and you're going to be using like a Cintiq or a Bamboo tablet or something like that, Photoshop is always a great one to go to, however, it can be expensive. You can get a 30-day free trial if you want to just try it for this course and decide whether or not you like it. But like I said, you kind of want to already be somewhat familiar with it, so that might not be the best idea. But there is Photoshop. If you're a student, you can get Photoshop for a pretty heavy discount for, I believe it's like $15 a month or something like that, which is pretty cheap if you can afford that. There's also Krita, which is a free digital painting software. Remember, you kind of get what you pay for, so it's not terrible, but it's also not quite as comprehensive or good as Photoshop. There's Corel Painter, which is specifically designed for digital painting. It's also a viable option. Once again, what we're going to be focusing on is Procreate and Photoshop, but all the techniques should be able to be transferred into some of these other softwares. So whatever it is that you're most comfortable with, I recommend choosing that one, but you do want to make sure you have layer functionality, brush settings so that you can change certain things. Other things you'll need are the selection tool, and I think that pretty much covers it. Just make sure that you're not starting this course with something that you're completely unfamiliar with. If you jump into this course with Photoshop and you've never used it before, you're going to have a pretty hard time following along, because this isn't really a beginner course on how to use specific software, but more on techniques you can use to digital paint. So keep that in mind. That being said, go with what works best for you, and I can't wait to get painting and show you guys some sweet skills. So I'll see you in the next lecture.